Perfect.
And can I talk away, Willie?
What's brought you here, Ted, anyway, you were saying?
Well, what brought me here? I was working in the law department in Bordnamona. I was in the final year of my apprenticeship. Talk louder. I was working up in Bordnamona, and in 1980 the European Commission insisted that the Irish government disband its land commission and open up the land banks. So there was a lot of properties suddenly on the market, and being in Bordnamona I was privy, I suppose, to the lists. So I went to an auction in Tubbercurry. That went for 2,100 pence in 1980. And then late 1980 I went to another land commission auction in Ennistimon, West Clare, too near the sea. Nice site, 3-acre site. It's now developed. So if I'd bought there I would have been very wealthy. Thank goodness I didn't buy there.
That was just around the time Geraldine and me got married, wasn't it?
Yes, same period. And then I came down on the 11th of June 1981. There was a general election that day, and I came down here to the auction of this house with a couple of acres, and I liked it very much. It's a wild place. The previous occupants, the late Batty and Julie May O'Leary, and their son, who's now a professor of ear, nose and throat surgery in Cork, as well as a surgeon. They left, I suppose, about 1975 really. The house was abandoned for a number of years when I came around. As I say, I liked it. Mainly it's a southeast facing slope with a little field at the back and a nice thicket of mature larch and Scots pine in the property. I like mature larch. I also very, very like the rookery. There's a big rookery here. The only rookery in this part of the Lee Valley. And I put in the final bid and I bought the property. Of course, in those years, land was affordable for those that had some savings. I had some savings from working with Bordnamona, and I was in a position to take possession in October of 1981. And bit by bit, William, as you can see, if you want to move the camera around.
Did you immediately start planting then?
Well, the first
was that your vision when you saw the place? Did you say, I'll be able to plant out, or was that your vision at the time?
That was the vision, that I would plant native trees and develop a small Irish tree nursery, but the focus being on local stock. I am 2 miles from a Ramsar site, the Guera, which is also a special area of conservation, natural heritage area, and an SPA under the Wild Birds Directive. So it has 4 important designations as a nature reserve: the hazel, the oak, the alder, the buckthorns, the ash, the Scots pine, the hollies, the yews, the mountain ash.
So it would be very important, Ted, even after you go or depart this world, that that this be kept.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything
here is grown from seed.
Yeah,
absolutely. Everything has been, over the years, whoever lived here with me helped me nurse, work placement people from the Permaculture College Kinsale, UCD, they're giving a degree in horticultural science. I've had a number of them. Drumcollogher, all through the 90s. I had 2 and 3 people here all the time, clearing, nursing on and planting.
And then the yews as well, a lot of cuttings were taken by,
The late Emmett and Kathy.
so it would be a lot of sentiment. My son Ezra planted a tree up the top.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so I mean there's a lot, as you say, there's a lot of history, isn't there, Ross?
There's also Shushi's sister Sandy. Her ashes are here. And I'm waiting on Shushi's father's ashes. There's an amount of those ashes to come, and I'm to plant, I think Shushi asked for an elder, a Sambucus niger, an elder. There would be scores of people's ashes here, and a lot of the trees are dedicated trees by next of kins and loved ones who brought their ashes of the loved ones. And
Did you ever think of putting little name things around them? Or?
I didn't, but the people who have put the ashes and planted the trees, they know where the tree is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come back, Willie. My fellow apprentice Adrian Blackburn, she died of tongue cancer in London just 2 years ago. And her husband John Byrne, her maiden name was Blackburn. Her husband John is coming, I'm hoping, in the late spring with Adrian's ashes. Adrian loved it here, as did John. They'd no children. Her death cert described her cause of death, funnily enough, not as carcinoma of the tongue, but of carbon dioxide poisoning. London at the moment is hovering on 14% oxygen. So if you're not well, the air is poisonous. St. John's Gospel has come to pass. The apocalypse, the air will turn poison. And a lot of the air is very poisonous. I'm convinced of that. In an east wind, they say around here, when the wind's from the east, it's a curse on the man and his beast. Cattle get sick in an east wind. And there's a smell from an east wind. And there's no smell from the west wind. And predominantly this is west wind. The Atlantic is just over the hill. Bantry is an hour cycle ride from here. Oh, where are we? Are we still in the right place here, William? What's that there? Foxes, a lot of foxes here.
A lot of foxes?
Yes, there are three foxes come around here.
Very small, isn't it?
There's a badger hole further up. I won't plant in there. The fox won't appreciate. So I might move slightly this way, really. I'll move over this way if I can.
That's not an old one though, Ted.
That's an old one. Oh,
Yeah.
Foxes would have multiple residences coming and going, like badgers as well. Badgers would always have their summer residence, their winter residence. What I like most about Tilbury is the volume of bats.
Around here?
Around here we have all 9 species of bat. The natterer's bat, Leisler's bat, brown, long-eared, pipistrelle, Nathusius, soprano, and most importantly we have in this immediate area Ireland's most endangered species, perhaps Europe's most endangered species, the lesser horseshoe. Is at 3 places that I know of in this immediate vicinity. I've notified the Quilcha Forest Service that I know where there's an old ruin deep in the Sitka forest where I've detected, using bat detection I detected. All 9 are in the immediate vicinity of where I live. In fact, at night I hear the Leisler's bat. You can hear the Leisler's bat. They're out even on the 9th of February, 2006 is today. The bats have been out for 2 weeks. They are rarely out before middle of March. So there's global warming, William. Great changes are happening. There's climate change, very advanced.
And up above there, it's just farmland, isn't it? You're surrounded by farmland, are you?
Well, luckily now to my north, John beside me, there's nothing intensive happening on the north boundary. And there's nothing intensive happening on my south boundary. Bit of slurry further up the hill behind me. But with all the effect of the trees being planted, they would trap any leaching. So my well is below the wood, and trees and vegetation absorb the nutrients of slurry, as well as I've been building up an organism called mycorrhiza. I've been building up soil fungi here for 25 years.
How are you doing that, Ted?
The first is, an example is over there. That two big Scots pines were blown down in an east wind. They'll rot there. I don't need the timber. I leave as much dead wood as possible. These great ash trees are always in limb drop. They're healthy. So by leaving a lot of rotting and dead wood, you build up the fungi that feed the soils. And also I've done tests here on pH, and it's mycorrhizally rich. The soil is poor, so you find that the fungi are more active in poorer soils. Do you follow that?
But as the trees go in, the soil will build up and...
Yes.
Yeah.
And leaf drop, all the leaves are left. And as you can see I'm doing here, I have absolutely no intention of getting a machine in and clearing. If nothing else, it's physiotherapy for us to plant the odd tree. But also I'm spot planting. I am not disturbing the wilderness, I'm spot planting. And managing them and getting the canopies up above the briar, but I'm leaving the cover. Because also this happens to be an area unique with stoats. A lot of Irish stoats here. The old dry stone walls are all around my ground, all through it. Old little tiny half-acre field systems. They're all still here if you look. And they're full of stoats. The Irish stoat. Have you ever seen an Irish stoat, Willie? Lovely apron, beautiful pale flaxen apron. And they're endemic in Ireland. They're endemic. They're not a cousin of the British or European stoat. They've evolved their own subspecies, and there's lots of them here. The importance here for me is that the hedgerows have gone. Since I came around here, 80% of the hedgerows have gone, the old field systems from the 17th century and 18th century. Most of our hedgerows come from the 1830s, but a lot of them come from the 1660 Cow Act, passed by the then Dublin Parliament. They've gone to accommodate the great machines. Farming is no longer farming, it's an industry really. The hedgerows are gone, the corridors are gone, the wildlife motorways and avenues are gone. And this for me has become a very important source area for species.
Isn't the government to offer incentives to farmers though to...
Under the next round of reps,
try and preserve
Rural
it?
Environmental Protection Scheme, under the next round there will be substantial grants. But something we cannot do is create wilderness. We can create semi-natural conditions, but when you take out an old hedgerow, you can never recreate that. In time it may come in to homeostasis. It may reach a stage of the path of least resistance and become ecologically rich. But that takes human generations for a new hedge to begin to be adopted by the local wildlife. They're slow to come in. For example, from my own experience, I know that a song thrush will never return where its nest is exposed or where its habitat is interfered with or damaged. They don't come back. A hedgerow that has been breached by 10 or more meters, the bat will never again use that as a corridor. So the hedgerows are vanishing, and the bats are suffering. Bats use hedgerows as ancient corridors across landscape. Now, you're probably thinking, my God, what importance is bats? Well, we've had a malaria case in Limerick recently. A man who never left the country. And they've identified the malarial mosquito in Limerick. And what feeds on mosquitoes? The bats. We have 16 native species of mosquito, but they're not malarial. The malarial species is in Ireland. Today is the 9th of February. It's pleasant. Soil temperatures are nearly 4 degrees, 5 degrees last week. Air temperatures are at 9 to 11. We've had no winter, William. If we go straight into March...
Growth after 8, isn't it? 8 degrees growth. Or
Nitrogen
6,
is active at 5 degrees centigrade.
6, isn't it,
Growth
Bryce?
starts
Yeah.
at between 4 and 5. And a very serious issue. I'm thinking just a year ago we had the tsunami, and something that I was very impressed with. In fact, I've met people who have been there. I travelled that part of the world, really 27 years ago. I was all throughout the tsunami world. What I found very interesting in northern Sri Lanka, which is now Ceylon, and up in not Bangkok, that other country we travelled in. I can't think of it. The older people watched the wildlife a week before the tsunami and told people in their hotels to get to the high ground. Wildlife have more than just an aesthetic use. If you're in touch with your wildlife, you can read the trade winds. Willie. Interesting here. Dennis is just coming down the lane. Don't move, don't move. Be very, very still, don't move. Anything that moves attracts the eye. Dennis is studying your car registration. Who's coming around? Will we get planting, William?
Yep, we will.
Now, Willie, would you do me a favour? Turn off the little machine there. Turn off the little machine, don't move.